Hello, hello, friends. Mm. Welcome to another episode of From the Editor's Desk. If this is your first time to catch me live, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure to have friends join me when I do these sessions. So if you're part of the conversation live this morning, pop in, say good morning, tell me where you're joining me from. Hope you have a cup of coffee or tea or smoothie or whatever it is you like to start your day with. Thanks for giving me a few minutes of your morning to get together and talk about some cool things, some great things that have been happening this week, some great stories. And today I'm going to be talking about creating great art. Had some fun this past week. Since last week, it's been kind of such a roller coaster ride because it is my birthday month. Celebrated my birthday this week on Tuesday, and enjoyed having my daughter in last weekend, coming in with her boyfriend to spend last weekend with us. We went to the state fair. We went to the incredible Vanga exhibit, which I have today's mug of the day, which is my beautiful, you see that, the window glare, but it's the picture of Starry Night on a mug. So we're going to be talking about that, about creating great art, what it means to create great art. But first, welcome. Thanks for being here. This is a little live stream show I have been doing now, for a long time. I've been going live on social media platforms since 2014 when Periscope first launched. And that was the first foray into live streaming. And 7 years later, here I am still doing this live. So this is my broadcast that I do that goes out on my Facebook platforms and on YouTube. And then I repost it to Instagram for those who are on Instagram that want to follow me there. But yeah, thanks for joining me. It's always a pleasure. So let's talk about some cool things that happened this week. I don't know about you, but have you heard Adele's new single? You know, she dropped her single. Actually, it was technically Thursday night at 7 p.m. for us because that was midnight in London, which was technically October 15th there. So we got a little sneak peek of it early Thursday night. And, the jury's still out. We've got, people all making all kinds of comments about, oh, it's sad girl fall. And, can I take a day out? There are already funny memes and things going out about it. It's only one single. Only one single, guys. The album doesn't drop until November 19th. But I just want to sip and salute her marketing team. She's got a great group of people behind her that knows how to market her work. So when we hear about her possibly working on something, we're already anticipating and waiting for it. Then we're teased with just one single and have to wait until November 19th for the album to drop. So the jury's still out. There are people that are absolutely enamored with it and love it. There are some people who aren't really taken with it. I found the song easy to learn and sing. I've already sung it a couple times in the car out loud, and it's really been great because her songs have a particular hook to them. This particular song sounds similar to one of her previous songs. I've got to figure out which one it is. I was having this conversation with someone on one of my platforms yesterday. I've got to find that song. It has a similar feel to it, you know. But yeah, Savannah, absolutely. You are excited for the album for sure. Yeah, I am too. The reason being is because it's been a while since we've had any work from Adele, right? So she's created this new piece of art that she's releasing. What has it been, 5 or 6 years since her last project? I mean, she was what, 25? And I love how she's, all of her albums have a number and they are markers for time in her life, ages in her life. So her story unfolds. I thought this was really interesting. I wanted to share this with you because when I was following her, I follow her on Instagram and a lot of, I mean, she's got millions of followers on Instagram. And what's really interesting about it is that when I look at her profile, so I want to show you something here. When I look at her profile, she's only following one person, only following one. She has 42 million people that follow her and her art. And so, she put up a picture of her beautiful self. First of all, I think she looks gorgeous. She's taken some time to take care of herself, obviously, physically, and she's been through some things, but look at her. I mean, she's beautiful. She's lost weight. There was a whole big kerfluffle on the internet about that, about, oh, look, she's lost weight. Adele has been working on herself, and she's also been creating some new work. So I found it fascinating when she posted on Instagram the other day. She added this slide, which is kind of like an explanation about this new album. So she says, I was certainly nowhere near where I'd hoped to be when I first started it nearly 3 years ago. So I guess she was working on her album 3 years ago. Quite the opposite, actually. I rely on routine and consistency to feel safe. I always have. And yet there I was, knowingly, willingly even, throwing myself into a maze of absolute mess and inner turmoil. If you felt like your last year or 2 have been, an absolute mess and inner turmoil, as she calls it, she goes on to say, I've learned a lot of blistering home truths about myself along the way. I've shed many layers, but also wrapped myself in new ones, discovered genuinely useful and wholesome mentalities to lead with, and I feel like I've finally found my feeling again. Nice alliteration there. I'd go as far to say that I've never felt more peaceful in my life. And so I'm ready to finally put this album out. It was my ride or die throughout the most turbulent period of my life. When I was writing it, it was my friend who came over with a bottle of wine and takeaway to cheer me up. My wise friend who always gives the best advice, not to forget the one who's wild and says, it's your Saturn return, babes. Fuck it. You only live once. The friend who'd stay up all night and just hold my hand while I'd sob relentlessly, not knowing why. The get up and go friend who would pick me up and take me somewhere I said I didn't want to go, but just wanted to get me out of the house for some vitamin D. That sounds like, she was cloistered during the pandemic along with all of us. That friend who snuck in and left a magazine with a face mask and some bath salts to make me feel loved while inadvertently reminding me not only what month it actually was, but that I should probably exercise some self-care. And then that friend who, no matter what, checked in on me even though I'd stopped checking in with them because I'd become so consumed by my own grief. I've painstakingly rebuilt my house and my heart since then, and this album narrates it. Home is where the heart is. Ah, did she need to give us an explanation about the process she went through to create this art? Notice that it says, this album was her ride or die throughout the most turbulent period of my life. Adele went through a divorce, really affected their family. She's very protective of her son, Angelo, who is 9. And, she's really, she was a child. She had a baby at 21. She put out an album at 19, then she put out an album at 25. Now she's put out an album at 30. These are all markers of her life given to us in the form of beautiful art that we enjoy, right? So, Adele's single, if you haven't listened to it, give it a listen. I'm curious to what you think about it because, again, it's someone's art created and put out there for people to enjoy. But she really doesn't care that much about touring or all of that. She loves making her art, but she lives a very private life. She's made sure to live her life in such a way where The fame comes because we appreciate the art she creates. And because of that, we want to know more about the artist. And yet, she keeps that very private. How about that? Creating great art. So, give a listen. Tell me what you think. I'd love to know. Do you love it? What do you think about it? Savannah, I am. I'm excited for the album to come out too. I want to hear more context of this story that she's trying to tell us through her art. So, speaking of great stories to tell through art, like I said, we went to see the Van Gogh exhibit. There are two exhibits that are going on in the country right now, which is a little confusing. So, let me kind of tell you which one we went to and brag on it because it was fantastic. But if you don't know that much about Vincent van Gogh, and a lot of people call him Van Gogh, it's okay. It's really Van Gogh was the pronunciation. But most people know him about, they went crazy and cut his ear off. We know some of his paintings. And yet this exhibit gives you so much more context, gives you a lifetime sort of feel. And so the one we went to is called Van Gogh, the Immersive Experience, right? There's another one called the Immersive Van Gogh. So completely different. The one we went to it starts off in a very 2D, two-dimensional way. You see some things, you see wonderful sculpture, a bust that has all of this digital stuff uh, projected onto it. That's the word I was trying to say. Projected onto it, so it makes it look like it's alive, and it's a huge bust that's in the alcove when you first walk in, and it's just stunning. It really captures your attention right off the bat. Then there are several places where you get to read and learn a lot more in-depth information about his life. So that when you get to the paintings, you understand something. For example, something I learned that I never knew before is that Van Gogh had vision problems. So this is why he used such vivid colors and such hard, stark lines in his work, because he couldn't see that great, right? I can relate to that because I had a little bit of an eye irritation earlier this week. I had to not wear my left contact lens for about 2 or 3 days, and let me tell you, trying to walk around with one contact lens is challenging, especially when you're trying to also work. This is how he lived. He painted that way. Some say, that the paints he used was a toxic lead in them. I mean, who knows? But he also battled epilepsy and schizophrenia. And so the painting that we've come to know and love called Starry Night, the beautiful one, with the swirls, the one that's on this mug, right? This painting right here. Well, this painting was made as he was looking out the window of his room at an insane asylum that he spent his life in. And in fact, the most beautiful pieces of artwork that we have come to know as his famous ones were created during this year of such mental instability, and he was mocked, he was laughed at, he was not celebrated in his lifetime. It was only after his death that he became famous. And that word that we come to know is when people become famous posthumously. I had to really look at it, because there's some words that you have a problem not only saying but spelling, and I do that too. And this is one of them. In fact, when I put it in Merriam-Webster to look it up, I spelled it wrong. It's just, you know, it's what happens. So this is the word posthumously. And posthumously means following or occurring after death. A lot of people who we've come to know as great artists, great writers, great musicians, s- most of them did not become famous until after they died. They never knew they were famous. And in this day and age where everybody is chasing that moment of fame, that moment when we could go viral, everybody wants to go viral and become famous first without thinking about the art that they are creating and leaving behind. So is it people went viral for eating Tide Pods. Really? That's great art that we leave behind. There's a record now in history where people will go back and look upon this and wonder, what in the world were these people doing? Eating Tide Pods, eating toxic detergent, knowing that it's toxic, right? This is what's left behind as a marker in our lifetime. So when you think about that, and is a list. I did some research and I wanted to know how many people became famous posthumously after their death. Many of them that we know, Edgar Allan Poe, Henry David Thoreau, Jane Austen, received some, notice about her writing. But remember, when she wrote her books, women weren't supposed to be writing stories back then. They were supposed to sit at home, be these little demure things. You didn't speak, you didn't do anything. And yet she wrote novels that became famous. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, Johann Sebastian Bach. Are you familiar with his music? Didn't really become famous until after he died. Let's put a modern spin on this. Have you read or seen the movie The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Right? Stig Larsson and that series of books, novels were published after his death in 2004. He became famous after he died. Never really knew how famous The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo became. Sylvia Plath, her work was not published until 20 years after her death, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for it. So not only did she not know she became famous, she never knew she won the Pulitzer Prize, and yet left behind a great catalog of work. Emily Dickinson, her poetry, she was so shy and introverted. She stayed in this one room, and her sister was the one that found her poems, and they weren't published until after her death. So Emily Dickinson never knew she was famous. Anne Frank never knew she was famous because she was killed in the Holocaust. And yet her book, her story, when published, became famous. Herman Melville, who wrote Moby Dick, his magnus, his magnus opus, right? Wasn't famous until after he died. Wasn't published massively until after he died. And then there's the great painters like Vincent van Gogh. You have El Greco, Monet, Cezanne, Gauguin, Georges Seurat, Toulouse-Lautrec. Of course, Impressionist and post-Impressionist painters, all who did not become famous till after their death. Another great writer, we're reading the book. My book club, we are going through this book right here. This little 85-page story right here, written by Thomas More in 1516, was not published until after his death because, of course, he was executed by King Henry VIII, not for writing this book. This was, and it was written in Latin originally, so no one could really read it because if anybody knew about it, that would have given the king a reason to execute him, but the king found another reason to execute him anyway. So not only did Utopia become a famous story, but it defined an entire genre of literature that we've come to know as utopian and dystopian literature, inspiring stories like The Hunger Games, Divergent, movies like Children of Men. So TV series that all deal with these worlds, right? All came from this book right here. Thomas More never knew he became famous because he was executed. Posthumously became famous. So creating great art, you notice that these people in their lifetime were creating their art and we're worried about what people were thinking because really in their lifetimes, people were not thinking they were great people. They didn't think they were artists. They didn't think they were great writers. They didn't even know about them. Some of them hid their work because they were afraid for people to find out about it. And yet these works of art, of music, of books, of writing, all have been left behind for us to enjoy, to ponder the things that the artists were trying to tell us about their lives, possibly about life in general, right? So I got to thinking about that, especially after I sat with my family and we looked at these 20-foot walls that had Vincent van Gogh's paintings just and they animate them so they're moving into this beautiful music. And I was just taken aback by the sadness I felt because these artists never really knew how much they were loved and appreciated, that their work was never really appreciated in their own lifetime. Good morning, Mary. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So, when you think about that, I thought about, well, what kind of life am I leaving behind? What kind of imprint am I leaving behind? Not just for fame's sake, but I'm talking about with the people I've come in contact with in my lifetime. What kind of imprint have I left on their heart? What kind of what kind of memory do they have when they think of me or my name comes up? Do I want people to laugh? I want people to smile. I want people to feel encouraged, and I want people to feel loved. And so I hope that that's what I'm doing. And I also hope that they are encouraged to share their stories, to write their stories, because I love working with authors, people who are creating art in written form. I love helping them craft their words and tell their stories and encourage them to do so because the clock is ticking, folks. In fact, let's see. Today's the 16th. How many days till Christmas? You realize it's going to be November before we know it in just a couple of weeks. So here's a book that came out recently that I got that I really thought was great. This is another example of someone who was creating her work, doing her thing. And of course, she did become famous. And if you don't know about her, and my hand is over her name, there we go. Tabitha Brown. Tabitha Brown released a book. It's called Feeding the Soul. If you are familiar with Tabitha Brown from Instagram, she became famous finally after someone posted her talking about, I don't know if it was getting some food or something, was trying to find a vegetarian option. But it says, before Tabitha Brown was one of the most popular personalities in the world, sharing her delicious vegan home cooking and compassionate wisdom with millions of followers across social media. She was an aspiring actress who in 2016 began struggling with an undiagnosed chronic autoimmune pain. Remember what I talked about earlier about art being created out of pain? That taking the ashes of that thing and creating something out of it? I work with a lot of authors who write their stories so that it will help others out of a problem, help others over a difficult hurdle in life. I'm working on a book right now with a gentleman who is the president of a very large global nonprofit organization that deals with orphan care. So he has spent his lifetime helping orphans find families, helping people who want to start their own, local or regional organizations to help orphans. He's there to help guide them along. And he's sharing his story about how he did that. So, in case someone is interested in doing that or carrying on the mantle of that responsibility, here's how to do that. I follow a couple of business mentors. One of them is John Acuff, and he shares his content and ways to, achieve your goals, um, work harder and smarter and faster and more efficiently in your business, connecting with clients, all of that, right? People are sharing their work. Well, Tabitha Brown, her condition made her believe that she wouldn't live to see 40 until she started listening to what her soul and her body truly needed. Now, in this life changing book, Tabitha shares the wisdom she gained from her own journey, showing readers how to make a life for themselves that is rooted in non judgmental kindness and love, both for themselves and for others. Um, and I love, she's got such a beautiful smile, and her joy is so infectious. But listen to what she says on the back of her book. Take the course called Life, honey, and you'll find out how much weaving is in everything you've ever done. Every single thing you do has purpose, okay? I'm a witness to the fact that when you get a chance to look back at all that's happened, you'll see how everything you wondered about, were afraid of, or didn't understand was actually lining up like a perfect puzzle. So when people ask me, girl, what did you do to be blessed like this? I just tell them I was out here living, working hard, being truthful, and sharing my story. That's really all I did. My soul woke up, realized that I was enough, and decided that everything I ever needed lived right inside of me. So let me tell you, let me tell you this same truth. Everything you need is right there inside you. Let your life launch you into your destiny. I'm thinking this is going to be my December book club read because I want to end the note on feeding my soul and feeling good about the upcoming year that's going to come. So I was thinking about that and I was like, I want to learn more about this. I want to hear her words. I love seeing her on social media. She has such a joyful spirit. And so when you think about sharing your story, what way would you share your art? What is it something that you love to do, love to create, love to share with people? And I'm not saying doing it for fame. I'm talking about what's really in you that you want to maybe bring to the surface, bring out. Maybe it comes in a video format like this. Maybe it's something you write. Maybe you're an artist and you create beautiful art. Um, Lord knows I can't create that kind of art. When I look at a painting like this, I can't create this kind of art, but I can create art with words. So if you want to share your story, I'm excited to tell you guys that in the month of November, um, as National Novel Writing Month is going to be starting up, I always do my own little take on it called National Novice Writers Month. So if you've ever thought about writing down your story, I'm in a challenge right now with John Acuff, and we're doing this little challenge right here where we have a little action tracker. And look, I have some pretty little stars that I'm using. And you notice one of my actions is write 100 words per day. And I'm on task. Look, I've been doing it so far for 14 days. Today's 15. And I have been writing segments of at least 100 words. Now, 100 words sounds like a lot, but really it's not. It's 10 sentences of 10 words. 10 sentences of 10 words. I can show you a little exercise where we take 10 words that you think of, like, uh, sadness and grief and happiness and popcorn and movies. And you take these words and you brainstorm them out into sentences, and then you have 10 sentences of 10 words, and boom, you have 100 words. I've noticed that as I've been doing this exercise, I'm writing on average about 300 words. One of my segments that I wrote was like 700 and something words, and I was like, wow, okay, that was a lot. So I've got to cut that down, especially if I'm going to put all of this material on my blog. But that's for another story. But I'm doing this action tracker, and we're doing it for 90 days. See down there, 90. John's doing a course. We're in this course, and we're doing it for 90 days. So I am working consistently on doing this, and I'm finding that it's really opened up my ability to just let the words flow. So if you want to do that, we're going to be celebrating some great things in November. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm not going to be here for the next couple of Saturdays because I'm going to be traveling. I've got some work commitments that I have to take care of. So when we start back in November, first of all, we're celebrating two things. One, it's going to be National Novice Writers Month. So starting November 1st, you're going to want to join me because I'm going to be sharing content all during the month of November focused on getting your writing out there, getting you started on writing your story, and some things and some ways that you can help organize your story, get it out there. Secondly, when we come back on November 13th, well, I'm going to be coming back November 6th, but on my show for November 13th will be my 400th episode live streaming. So there's going to be a party. I'm going to be doing some book giveaways. I'm also going to be doing some giveaways on some time spent with me to help you get your story written or organized, whatever it is that you want to write. If you've ever been thinking about it, or you've got a book in process, or perhaps you've got something ready and you just don't know what to do with it now. That's what we're going to do during the month of November. So You are learning so much in your art history class, and it's fascinating. Right. Savannah is going to schools to become get a degree in graphic design, and she has shown interest in illustration. And so she's taking classes that are helping her improve and increase her technique and her knowledge base in art. So I'm real proud of you, Bear. You're doing a great job, and you're learning some great things. Um, because as we add to our skill base and our knowledge, it helps us create that art that is inside us. So, what kind of art do you want to create? If it's the written kind, ooh, that's my jam. That is definitely my jam. And I would love to help you with that. So, if you need some help, you want to contact me, get on the list because we're going to be starting November 1st with the month with writing prompts, some writing exercise, some techniques, some tools that I'm going to be able to share with you about getting your writing started, crafted, and presented in some form or fashion. Don't think of publishing right off the bat as having to get a book deal. There are other ways to get your work published to get you started so you can get the ball rolling so that you can eventually think about publishing something for real, right? Putting a book out there for people. So let's get you started on your journey. So that's what we're going to do. If you want to get on the list or talk to me about that, shoot me a message right here at roneharden.com/contact. There's several little boxes you can check there. Let me know what it is you're interested in. If you want to join the book club and get in on our discussion, our next discussion is going to be this coming Tuesday, November 19th. And then our next one is going to be November 2nd, where we discuss all, and it's only 85 pages, guys. It's not that big. So this is an easy book to read, but there's a lot in here to digest, especially when we're talking about a place where government is different and life is different. So, do the people like it? Do they even know it's different from what we know? What if we wanted to implement some of the ways that they did things in their land into our own country? Ooh, we got a lot to talk about. So, there's time for you to sign up still and join the book club. You could do the same thing right here, roneharden.com/contact. Let me know. You can also catch all of my replays of any of my live streams. If you want to see what I've been doing, well, go to my YouTube channel. You can see all the videos there. Click around, catch up on some of the past ones. Tell me what you think. And I can't wait to start because we're going to count down to the end of this year and we're going to finish strong. And we're going to look forward to going into 2022 making some great art. Are you with me? Cool. Well, guys, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for being here. To the folks that are watching live, love you all. Thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time to spend your morning with me. And like I said, go over to my website, roneharden.com/contact. Let me know how I can help you. If you want to create your great art, get on the list so you'll get all kind of fun things, and you'll get updates from me, little funny quips from me. Because I've been really working on brainstorming and mapping how I want to use my means of communication, not make it so heavy on social media, but really connect with you one-on-one. So let me know if you'd like to do that. All right. Have a great weekend, guys. Make it fabulous. Get out there and create something today. You might bake a cake, maybe. You might make a new recipe. You might draw something. You might play some new music. A song might come to you that you've been trying to form. Give yourself some time outside if it's a beautiful day and stir up that gift inside of you and watch what happens. Never know. You could create some amazing art that I want to see. All right. So, guys, we'll be back on November the 6th. But meanwhile, I'll be sharing lots of content on my social media accounts. So, definitely follow me here on Facebook on my page and click the follow button. Hopefully, click it and like it so that you can get the content that I'll be sharing. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll talk in a few weeks. Get out there and make some fabulous art. All right. See you later.